And I tried the last time I went to look there.
Like ours.
It's,
Because there's a bunch of them on lots.
yeah, this is one I really liked.
Yeah, you probably responded back to.
I was meeting with Kathy, so I'm late.
No, we're still- we're close.
Barbara sits down.
You know, tomorrow.
Yeah. I was meeting with Kathy.
You're having a hard time logging in, Frank.
That is, okay. Well, we're gonna wait a minute while we get Mr. Molina logged in. And I had an email to Louisa that noticed I didn't hit send.
Logging in.
That is, okay. Well, we're gonna wait a minute while we get Mr. Molina logged. And Ms. Rodriguez will present the budget and then we'll open it up for the public to respond.
Yes, good afternoon,
And
Chairman Straka and members of the
Ms.
board.
Rodriguez will present the budget and then we'll open it up for the public to respond. Can we mute
Good
that?
afternoon,
And
Chairman Straka and members of the
Ms.
board.
Rodriguez will
proposed, we must adopt. $1 million in ninth grade funding. We didn't include it in this proposed budget that we're going to ask you to approve tonight because the state won't let us. State won't let us put the ninth grade funding in until we do a May revision. So that's just the reason why that's not there.
What kind of indication shows that we're gonna have higher than 8,500 ADM?
Well, I'm looking at some preliminary numbers that we have for this year. And if I'm working with ADE to get those moved over to the finance reports, but it looks like it's going to be higher than 85. And it's really based on some of the work that we've been doing with our partner districts. Just getting the accuracy of the reporting into the system has been something that we've really, the student information systems team that works in the business department has been going out there actively working with each of those member districts, explaining to them exactly how you report CTED, ADM. And I think that that's gonna be why we're gonna see a higher. We had a revision that we did for a prior year that increased it higher as well. Again, due to the fact that we have some very hardworking people in our department, making sure we get every penny we're entitled to. So that's why I'm saying that I'm seeing that trend. And next year, we've already laid the groundwork with our member districts to be able to put everything in place. Classroom site fund, again, that proposed went down a little bit from the revision, and that is due to the fact that we're going to carry forward less money. We know that we had some additional expenditures in 2024 than we had in previous years. So you'll see that decrease, and I'm watching that fund very closely to monitor the expenses that we've committed out of there. And then our capital outlay, you'll see it on the budget forms. Sometimes it's referred to as DAA, District Additional Assistance, but we call it capital outlay. It's kind of the funds we've set aside to spend on capital improvements, which will furnish some of our bond projects. And then, of course, our bond money. We have 4 active projects going on right now, and we will see that money being spent down this year. A large portion of that, we're going to be bringing proposals back to the board here in a couple of meetings about some of the pricing that we're seeing on the southeast, the northeast, the Agua Fria, and we'll see that budget amount or that bond going down. So the next steps were, as I had said, we published it. It was out there for 10 days, more than 10 days because of the difference between our board meetings. So communities have an opportunity to look at it. So now we're holding the public hearing, and then later on in the agenda, we'll be asking you to approve and adopt this proposed budget.
Does anyone look at it? Public?
I have not had any questions about it. So I can't say whether they've looked at it or not. I don't have any way to really track that. My only gauge is like, is anybody gonna call me and have questions about it? And I have not received any phone
Have you
calls.
ever been called before?
Yes, I have, ma'am. Yes, I have. I have been called before.
That's a good sign.
Can I ask a question more for Mr. Williams? When we talked last week, I had heard on the news that the governor's budget she signed was flat for education and 4% cut for other departments. And then I see it says 2% increase to base level funding. Can you help me understand the differences between the media and the truth?
So, Chairman Straka, members of the board, I don't know that I'm gonna get to that level of clarity for you, but I will say that the budget package as approved did account for an increase of 2% to the base level for K-12. If you start talking university systems, community colleges, they saw 3.5% cut in funding. If you talk state agencies across the board, they generally saw a 3.5% cut in funding to account for some of the shortfall. K-12 specifically was made whole and realized that 2% increase to the base level support.
Okay, so is it fair to say or possible that based on your answer, education being flat when I take in universities and K-12 went up 2%, universities, community colleges, charter schools may have taken a hit, and it's flat.
Yeah, Chairman Straka, I think you could, I could see where someone would be able to make that case. It's complicated because the other elements of education, post-secondary universities, community colleges depend much more heavily on federal funding than K-12. So their whole bucket may not have seen that full cut, but at the state level, in terms of state dollars, I think that would be a fair case to make. Yep.
Anyone else have any questions before we?
So just to verify, the students right now, once they come into session coming up in August, you'll start seeing registrations when? Late August, early September?
Well, we're already seeing registrations. Thank you, Member Garcia, the question. We're seeing registrations, so we already have class lists, starting to build that. And it's looking very good with the numbers that we're seeing and filling our courses. What we will start to see when the kids actually come is when we'll start to see what kind of average daily membership they generate, their ADM, and what kind of enrollment our member districts have. So, that's a large part of where our ADM comes from. So it's really making sure and monitoring that the member districts are reporting their attendance and that they're growing their programs as well.
On page 2, the estimated M&O carry forward of 16 million. Is that included in the 51 million or is that in addition to?
The 51 million.
Capital outlay?
Oh, no, that would be separate. So
Could have about 118 million towards capital projects if I add bond capital and the carry forward.
yes, that would be correct. And that would be a discussion that we would have in leadership, determining, when we come back and revise in December or May, do we want to carry some of that M&O that we have extra into those capital projects? And we will get a better sense of that once we get some solid numbers from our contractors and our architects about what's going to be required to be able to do those projects at our campuses. And we want to do them right. We want to make sure if we need to invest a couple of million or 3 million additional to make those campuses the way that they are West-MEC worthy, if you will, because we have a certain standard that we have promised our community and our kids.
Mr. Strong, I've got a couple of ideas around some other projects as well that you and I probably both know about, but we can talk about.
Yeah, I was just trying to, what I was trying to get at is that $16 million already baked into the 51, or it's an addition to. So
In addition
addition to is the better news.
Yes, I'll bring forward the conversation piece.
And then on the classroom site fund, I think I asked this last month. We originally estimated healthcare costs on some things and pay raises in a $31 million budget, and it's now 3.9 million. We had projected it out that we were good for 15 years. If our number is lower and we're spending more, what does the projection look like? How long does this money last before we run out of money?
Probably 2 to 3 years before we use up all the balance. So then we'll be in a position where we've used up all of our carryover that we have, because we get about 1.4 a year. We spent about $1 million in 2024. And we're looking at, making sure that all of the performance pay, none of our teachers earn the $11,000. So that's an area where we do some carryover, but we may need to make some adjustments, but that will be something that we would bring to you as a board and explain to you doing that projection forward. The other,
2 to 3 years away is.
correct. The other thing with classroom site fund is it is a varying number. So, 1 year it's $700 per student. The next year it's $755. Then this year it's $780. So it depends on the sales tax revenue as well. So if that number starts to go down, then we'll have a different conversation about how we want to manage that fund and be able to share that money with our teachers.
And then the only other thing I didn't see is that we've had a couple of conversations about the district allotment that we provide back. What is the projected number for next year that we're looking at compared to this year? And what was the thought process behind that? Because I didn't see that in here.
So that is, we're giving them all of the 9th grade funding back. So that $3.6 million, that all goes back to the member districts. And then we have a formula that we use to determine how much goes back. And we also have lots of grants. There's lots of different ways that member districts can receive money from West-MEC to help support their programs. So that is a conversation that I want to continue to have with our leadership team. And just take a look at that holistic picture. Are we being fair to our member districts? Are we supporting their programs so that they can be successful? So that number fluctuates depending on if they take advantage of the grants that we offer them.
Typically, that's designed after we receive the state's budget approval or not. Once we get the money, so that should be coming soon.
So we always had an amount, like years ago, it used to be like 14 million. And then the next year we would propose an amount. And so that was, I guess, through the IGAs is the best way. Has that number changed, or are we putting that more into grants? That's really what I'm trying to understand. What was the number last year? What is it going into next year?
Well, yeah, it was $11 million, that the base, right? And then we added the 3 million and 3.5 million onto that. And then we added all of the numbers for the grants, capital grants. And it's really about supporting. We know we want innovation happening at the other member campuses. We know we want them to have the right type of equipment for the students to learn on. So it's as close to work-based learning as possible. So it really will depend. I mean, that's the 11 million, which is actually 14 million, 14.5 million this year. And then whatever the grants they ask for that they need.
Yeah, so what's the budget for grants? I mean, are we just gonna first come, first serve, or if we get $50 million in grants and they all look good, we'll give $50 million? I mean, there has to be, what I'm trying to understand is,
What you're saying.
I'm trying to get to, what was last year's number with everything put together, and what's this year's number, just however you want.
And we're working on that. I actually have a meeting with Jared to look at what our distribution is to our member districts and what is reasonable for capital this year. Jared and I both being new in our positions, we needed to get some information together so we can sit down and have that intelligent conversation about what makes sense. And now that we kind of know where our budget is settling in for this year, it'll give us a better sense of what we have available to still sustain our programs and support the members.
And then also take advantage of like Vista Verde, because that's gonna take a lot of capital to do something. That's, yeah. So, okay. Any other questions? Thank you, I'm good.
Okay.
Mr. Miglerino, any questions on the budget?
No, when it comes to the budget, I always want to know that we have budgeted everything that we could possibly budget. And I think Ms. Rodriguez answered that with the information we have available. That we did do that. So I'm good.
All right, thank you, sir. All right. Just any questions for the public? Any questions for the public? Second time, third time I have to ask, any questions from the public? Hearing none, I will close the public meeting. All right. Then we will call our regular meeting to order. Are we doing roll call?
Or should you just say all board members are present?
Perfect. All board members are present. Mr. Miglerino, we've already heard us on the phone, so we're ready to move on. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'd like to ask Miss Jacqueline Romero, our new district receptionist, to come on forward and lead us in the pledge, and then it will be followed by a moment of silence.
United States of America. Justice.
All right, moving on to item number 3, adopt the agenda. I would entertain a motion to adopt it as presented. Moved by Mr. Molina. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Garcia. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. Ms. Brown?
For the consent.
No, this is just for the agenda as presented.
Okay.
Can you pull anything? Can you pull anything now or no? For the consent?
We'll get to, when we get to the consent agenda, we'll I'll ask if anyone would like to pull anything. Oh, my TV is gone. I can't see the results.
It's right there. These are really small. And I know,
Mr. Chairman, I'm not receiving
did you sign
a
in?
box to vote in.
Okay, you just can give me a verbal yes or no. And Mr. Migliorino, if you can give me a yes or no, because I don't have your
Yes,
vote. Thank you.
yes.
Lost, say yes.
I had to log out and log back in. It like lost my credentials, but it wouldn't let me sign in without logging out.
Motion carries.
Are you on the right action item?
Mhm.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, I have to log back in again.
Summary of current events. Dr. Spurgeon.
Thank you, Chairman Strzok and board members. Kind of a thin month, but not less exciting for sure. The first thing I'd like to mention is thank you to Ms. Boosum for being a representative of the board at the Central Campus Recognition Ceremony for our aviation maintenance program. It was an exciting time for the families and the students, and all of those programs were designed and implemented by all the students there at Central. I thought it went really well. So just want to say thanks to her for representing the board for your congratulations note. So thank you, Ms. Boosum. The second thing I want to mention is John Liu from the New York Times came to Phoenix to our Southwest campus. And Mr. Parsons and I and a student and I think a couple of faculty members had a chance to visit with him. He was here to learn more about our advanced manufacturing and work in the semiconductor industry and our workforce development processes and procedures. And haven't seen that article come out yet. We're hoping that comes out to be very positive, but there has been some real positive press, I think, around Phoenix, around semiconductor and advanced manufacturing of the work that we're doing. So just very excited about that. Next thing I want to mention is CJ and I and Mr. Molina were able to meet with Jennifer Stein, Mike Faust, and Austin Rowe from Peoria. And we're looking to get more information about their plans for economic development and growth and how West-MEC might fit into their picture for future projects. And we had some good information that I'll be hopefully bringing to the board at some point in time about some conversations we had about some potential land and some other things that may be going on up in the North Corridor. There was an article that just came out. I saw this morning that there's a lot of interest in that land. I think, Mr. Strong, I sent that to you.
Yep.
A lot of interest. They're looking at potentially 40,000 rooftops going in up there in that general vicinity. And so it's going to be a tremendous expansion up in the North Peoria area with a potential innovation center there. Potential new Peoria High School, new potential charter school going in up in that area. And so we're looking maybe at a partnership with those three as well. So just very exciting all around for looking at potential. This may not be 3 years down the road, but it's, you know, today's always the best way to plan for those kinds of things that are happening. We had a discussion with a GPEC representative and an individual from the biotech industry and healthcare. And one of the things that we haven't pushed as much as we should probably in the West Valley is the work in biotech. And so GPEC, along with the City of Surprise and West-MEC, are involved with how can we continue to push that narrative to expand the work around healthcare and the biotech fields in the West Valley. And so that's just our initial conversation. So we're hoping to continue those conversations maybe at the legislative level, because some states do have some matching grant opportunities that the state provides for growth in the biotech areas. So we're going to probably start with a couple of legislators to see if we can get those folks on board to be able to promote more work in the biotech industry here in the West Valley. So just kind of an exciting conversation, which would be a somewhat new area. We have the biotech program, and then we have the study of biotechnology at our Southwest campus, but this would be a little bit more of an expansion for West-MEC and maybe some different career fields. So pretty excited about that. And then the last thing I'll mention is GCU Provost Randy Gibb gave us a little time. He came over and met with CJ and I and Marilyn Babiar about our partnership and the things that we could do to strengthen that partnership and ways that we can collaborate. And we did ask if at some point in time we could utilize the arena again for our recognition ceremony. Don't know if that's ever going to happen. That may not ever come back. We are working in the IT security and co-branding, continuing that conversation, and they are going to continue to provide us what we will call a school counselor from GCU to actually work within the confines of West-MEC to be able to work and promote and assist students that might have an interest in going to GCU. So exciting conversations, but just not a lot of them between June and July.
I would just put to them that, you know, to get students interested in GCU, doing the recognition ceremony there would be a great launching pad.
That was our thoughts as well. So, but had a great conversation with him, had a chance to sit down with him individually, but just a very, very pleasant conversation and just a really, really great man. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you, sir. Board members, Mr. Garcia? Mr. Molina, anyone?
Yeah, on the 20th, I met with Shauna Sexton and Irene Orr from the Dream Center. And we talked about, you know, the aged out foster care kids and the sex trafficked youth. Maybe joining, you know, having some programs in the adult education and even some of, you know, the high school programs for West-MEC. And they're very interested. So we're going to go ahead and set up a tour for West-MEC for both of them to come and see what we can work out. We met with Marilyn and Shelley over here and just kind of paving the way, take one step at a time.
Ms. Boozum, do they have multiple locations or do they have one campus?
They have one facility. It's up on Indian School in Grand Avenue.
Okay.
So, you know, those are all things that have to be ironed out as far as transportation, you know, all that kind of stuff. So they're looking at all those kind of things, but they think it's a great opportunity. They're very excited about, you know, getting some of these, you know, giving these kids a hand up, you know, and becoming successful citizens.
Nothing.
Mr. Miglorino, anything? All right, hearing nothing, we'll move on to the next item. Call to the public. No calls. One more time, call to the public. This is your opportunity to address the board. I've made 2 calls, hearing none. I will move on to the information discussion and recognitions and celebrations. Mr. Guy, I almost called you Mr. Jarrett.
Happens all the time. Chairman Straka, members of the board, good evening, Dr. Spurgeon. Happy to be here tonight to have the opportunity to recognize a few of our staff members. We have one of the staff members present with us tonight to recognize. So the first recognitions are for the ACTE-AZ, Association for Career and Technical Education, annual awards that they do at the state level every year. So next week, these will be presented at that awards recognition. So that will be the official recognition. It'll get their plaque and all the fun stuff at that awards assembly. But we wanted to recognize those that have connections to West-MEC. Because you'll see as I go through some of these awards, almost the whole slate of awards being given at ACTE AZ have some connection to West-MEC. So either directly as our employees or through our satellite programs or some of our industry partners. So I want to start with our medical assisting, Teodora Robles, who is our medical assisting instructor at the Southwest campus, is being named the new Career and Technical Education Teacher of the Year for the whole state of Arizona. New teacher to us at our Southwest campus this year, and Teodora, come on up. I know she's going to be shy, but we'll have her come up so you can get to recognize her. So Teodora's teaches our one-year medical assisting program, has jumped in and just done a phenomenal job in the program. I went and saw her like early on in the school year about it. I think it was like August or September. I'm like, are you okay? And she's like, it's been a lot, but I've got a lot of support and I'll get there. And she's there. She teaches a class that starts at 7 a.m. and she's there usually till like 8 o'clock at night, probably way too long this year getting ready, but she said it's paid off in the results with their students in the first year, and I think it's set her up for success long-term with us. We were just talking before the meeting about opportunities to maybe expand some programming next year to get her in front of even more students with some additional sections. So anyway, we wanted to recognize Tia and her work with us this year, and congratulations. Thank you. Also, the other West-MEC employee who's not with us tonight, Carol Rosano. Many of you may know Carol. Carol's our administrative assistant for our student services department, has been with West-MEC for several years. Just a phenomenal employee for us at West-MEC, serves the student services team. Just one of the hardest workers you'll ever find, just that strong work ethic. Again, she's one, I accuse her of sleeping here at night. I'm still convinced there's some nights that she sleeps here at corporate, because there's some mornings she get here pretty early and she'll be there, she'll beat me there, and then I'm leaving and she's still there. And I'm like, so I'm still not convinced she hasn't slept here some nights, but tremendous work ethic and just always willing to jump in and support student services, anything that's supporting our programs on campuses and here at the corporate office, obviously. So Carol will be recognized for that, the CTE Administrative. Again, these are statewide awards for the Outstanding CTE Administrator of the Year. Also not with us tonight, but again, very connected to West-MEC, Noelle Trender is being recognized as the West-MEC Industry Partner. She's an industry partner from Banner Health, but she's being recognized as the Outstanding Business Professional of the Year. So again, ACT every year selects one person that really represents a business partner who's out there really making connections to CTE programs and to those opportunities. And Noelle serves on our institutional advisory commission, has been a key partner with the AAEC and statewide, just really doing tremendous work to connect high school students to healthcare pathways in a lot of different ways. And she's really out there paving the way to remove barriers at state, national levels with licensing and things like that will make it easier for us to create some seamless pathways for students. So we're happy that Noelle is being recognized. And then also a couple more that are connected through our satellite programs. Just so you are aware, Michelle Bohan is the guidance counselor with Dysart District. She's being named the Career Guidance Professional of the Year. So she'll be recognized statewide. We work with Michelle. She's been in the Dysart District for several years. And so it's good to see her being recognized for her great work. And then Heidi Moya, I think it's Moha, probably, I'm sorry. Moya, sorry, again. She's being recognized as, she works in Deer Valley District as the Community Service Award. She's a FCCLA sponsor in the Deer Valley Unified School District. So we just wanted to recognize all the good work that's happening in our central programs with our employees, as well as our satellite representatives being recognized at the awards assembly. So be an exciting time next week at ACTEAZ. Several of us will be down there in Tucson cheering them on in the official recognition. Secondarily, kind of transitioning, you have lots of details on our CTSO state and national award winners, but just wanted to summarize, as you guys know, our CTSOs are career and technical student organizations, and that is a key piece of our delivery model and that leadership development that students are involved with their Skills USA chapters or their HOSA chapters or their FBLA chapters, depending on their programs. And so, again, this year, even more than ever, we've had great representation at those competitions. So students start with a regional competition for each one of those. And then once they move on from the regional competition, they go to a state competition. And then from there, they can qualify for a national competition as well. And so you can see in that summary there, we had 20 students from our central campus and various programs placing at the state level. And we had a second place winner at the national level in aviation maintenance, which is a huge competition at National Skills USA. 16 students at Northeast Campus placing at the state level. And then at Northwest, we had 60 students placing, huge numbers, and 59 students placing at Southwest Campus in multiple programs at the state level. So you have those details of all those, the students that place, but we always want to recognize those. That represents a tremendous amount of work for the students to prepare for those competitions, but the teachers like Teodora and really mentoring and preparing those students to be successful in those competitions. It's a huge amount of time and time commitment above and beyond even the daily instruction. So excellent work happening out there with our CTSOs as well.
It's so important.
All right. Question on Skills USA, do we have anyone from West-MEC administration or teachers going to those?
Skills USA.
Skills USA to present or network?
To the actual conferences?
Yeah, the company.
Oh, yeah, so we have, so these state where the students go compete, their state, so the state convention, where they have their state convention and their award ceremony. We have several teachers. So all of these students that you see, their advisors are there with them at that event. Well, and Skills USA is here in Phoenix at the convention center, and then HOSA is another big one. We have a lot of teachers, and students.
Yeah, I've gone down there. It's really neat.
Oh,
It's great to
Yeah.
watch it. You can see the whole thing. You can even see interviews and.
Yeah, sounds like fun.
And then the closing ceremonies, they put everybody down for Skills, it's here in Phoenix. HOSA is down in Tucson, as well as FBLA is down in Tucson. But they fill up that whole convention center for Skills with, one of those big conference rooms for the awards and the closing ceremony. And it's we like it, but we kind of pack the front of that with West-MEC students and representatives. You'd be surprised at the presence that we have and this is again, the whole state. And then when you go in that awards ceremony, I went to Skills this year. As other schools, it has to be kind of disheartening at some point to keep hearing West-MEC, this campus, West-MEC, this campus, but it's kind of prideful to see. Yeah, I'm fine, but no, it's we truly represent a very strong presence there.
I've never gone to the Nationals, so we should do that.
Yeah, the Nationals are pretty
Is it
phenomenal.
Kentucky usually?
Yeah, they rotate now. They rotate around different states. They used to be in Kentucky every year, Skills, but they rotated around the last few years. So, yeah.
Put that on my list. The national.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. I believe Mr. Cook is up. You're in communication update.
Thank you, Chairman Sturgeon, members of the governing board. Commissioner Spurgeon, also just wanted to highlight, we missed, I think, one person or one campus, Southwest Campus, third place, vet science, am I correct too? So we didn't have that on our list, but little kudos to them too, so I don't. We're excited to present. We had a banner year. We creatively crushed it this past year. You can look right here. We had 502 tickets that we completed this year throughout the year. And that could be like between website edits, flyers, videos. So these are folks on our campuses or here district staff that are asking us to complete projects. So you can see the picture right here. This is a salon service sign that we created. So folks can obviously, get there and see the services, but a wide range, a wide array of projects that we do. And you can see it significantly has grown over these past 5 years. Next up, we had 104 events that we covered. Last year, we covered 80 events. These 3 that you see in white are some of the ones that communications department really kind of handle ourselves. The Department of Labor, a great event that we had here, first time an acting secretary from the cabinet came to a West-MEC campus. So talk about a feather in our cap. That was a great event. I'd like to thank CJ and Jared and Dr. Spurgeon for helping with that process of making sure that happened. And then communications kind of took the lead on all the kind of fancy stuff that some of the stuff that you see here on the screen. We also do our Experience Orange event that's hosted once a year. I know a couple board members have been to it. We appreciate if somebody's new. Ms. Molina, if you'd like to come to it, it's in October. Location is to be determined, but last time we had at Northwest Campus, but we'll make sure to give you that information earlier than that. All the other ones that you see right there are just a sampling of places that we've been to, taking photos, supporting, and then also potentially putting it on social media as well. So just always great to see the good things that are happening out in our district, and we're happy to promote that. Next up, I'm gonna have Grant. He was a major player in this part right here, which is media outreach. So he can kind of explain a little bit like that. And I'm sorry that I missed the memo. This was my fault of not having the tan pants and the blue shirt. So I did miss that memo. That is my fault, but they look way better than me. So Grant.
I don't think you missed the memo. This is pretty much what I wear every day. For media outreach, we use software called Critical Mention, and it is a media mention tracking software. So we use that to track us and other CTEs both in the state and nationally. We had over 700 mentions and placements, and that's from digital, just print publication and through broadcast segments. You can see the next size was 207, which is Francis Tuttle and Butler Tech, and they're both located in Ohio, I believe. And EVA and Pima JTED were our in-state rivals. And some of the places where we were placed in, most notably was the Washington Post, and as Dr. Spurgeon mentioned, the New York Times. That article hasn't come out yet, but both are obviously very recognized national media outlets, so that's really cool for West-MEC. And other than that, it's kind of more local publications such as AZ Central, Phoenix Business Journal. You can see a few others there. There's more than that. And then from a broadcast standpoint, we were featured on ABC 15, the channel 3 and 5, CBS's, and Fox.
Yeah, we're seeing some of them.
Yes. That's great. And just coming back to this slide right here really quickly is we can't choose when a place is going to actually place that or mention us. So to be able to get that high of a number from last year, you never know what you're gonna get because it's up to them if they want to, but I just believe it's the great stories that we have here, that we're able to get those higher type of numbers. Social media, Krista, you met last year, is not here, but you can see our numbers are about the same as last year. Impressions are the amount of times it comes up on a person's screen. Engagement is actually the likes, the shares. So Ms. Wiley, Mr. Ramirez, I know that you guys have shared and those kind of things. So the likes are once again the old school way. That's not what you wanna do. You wanna share or you wanna comment in there. Even if you comment with a little thumbs up, that is better than just liking something. That's what moves up that engagement. So once again, we can't choose how people are engaged with us. But if we're consistently right here, I feel these numbers are good. These are higher numbers than most other people as far as engagement. So we're happy with those numbers there. Next up, I'm gonna have Jonathan talk about our videos.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Governing Board. Thank you for having us today. This year, Communications created 56 total curated videos. This is an increase from last year's 33. This includes 3 new partnership videos, including the City of Buckeye, City of Surprise, and the Glendale Chamber. Revamped 3 Why I Hire videos, 30-second promo videos for 29 of our programs, and then brand new campus videos, advertisements for our YouTube channel. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
And just stay here for a second. Also wanted just to highlight Jonathan, major player obviously in these videos, which obviously take time, right, to do. But also just thank him for his good work because he will be leaving this fiscal year. He got engaged. So congratulations on that. He will be moving to Flagstaff in a little bit of time. And luckily, you probably should move as soon as you can right now to enjoy that beautiful weather, because I was just up there. And it is beautiful to see my daughter, but want to just personally publicly thank you for everything you did for West-MEC and looking forward to your future. Thanks.
Thank you.
Now, this is the fun part that we typically don't do in communications is we do a student spotlight. And I remember Board Member Wiley mentioned that she saw this article, but Lauren, who's actually here today, was highlighted in a whole bunch of places, not only in print, but also on the news station. So it was a kudos. But you also, if you want to look at that picture right there, you see somebody who looks a little bit familiar. Grant was our stand-in, getting some fake shots, and I think he's right. That is the same shirt, but potentially. All right. I'm gonna play the video, but I don't see it up here or down below that Darren had before, but I could be wrong, Darren. Thank you very much. I just had to look up at the tab.
Hey, it's Jamie. So Lauren Matsky was diagnosed at a young age with cerebral palsy, which left her with only one functioning arm. So now her teacher and some fellow students at West-MEC came up with an amazing invention to help her and others overcome obstacles in the classroom.
It's huge. It's going to be huge, making them more independent.
Then can I have you dangle your arm real quick?
First year medical
Thanks.
student Lauren Matsky isn't letting her disability get in the way of doing what she loves. Every day she gets in the lab and gets to work. She wants to become a certified nurse.
Taking vitals, doing phlebotomy, injections.
Sometimes it's not always easy. At a young age, Lauren had a stroke, which led her to develop cerebral palsy. Her condition left her with only one functioning arm.
Our main struggle when I first got here was just putting on gloves and taking them off. I would have to ask my classmates or Miss Ray for help to put them on and take them off. And that was kind of frustrating if they were doing their own thing and me having to depend on someone else.
That's when Lauren's teacher, Stacy Ray, did a little research and reached out to a nurse who lost her arm in a boating accident.
The nurse that I met in New Jersey, she has it's kind of like a coat hanger. So we tried to find something as close to it as we could. So we did end up having like a coat rack hanging on a drawer. And then from that, we just invented this device.
Made by a 3D printer, the device attaches to a desk and holds Lauren's glove so she could put it on without any help.
It's made her a lot more independent. She can put her gloves on, take her gloves off by herself.
Designed to help a friend, this simple invention has the potential to help so many others.
It means that they care and that they somewhat show empathy for me and they want to help.
She just said it right there. The fact they're like, oh, my buddy needs help. We can come up with
They
something.
all pitched in. They all
Yeah.
pitched in, and it's really made a difference for her. And
Yeah.
hopefully other students or other people who may be in similar shoes.
Yeah, I mean, I could just see lots of things could come out of this. And it's getting recognition already?
Yeah, it has. So recently, the group of students won state at the Medical Innovations HSOA competition, and now the students are headed to nationals.
Oh, wow.
So
Very cool.
really big. Hopefully
Yeah.
they get another award for this. But it's again really making a big difference.
Well, they'll have to let us know how they do nationals.
I know. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Again, thank you.
Thanks, Jamie.
The superintendent.
So I'd like to bring up Lauren. So Lauren was a medical assisting one-year program at the Northwest campus and just recently graduated. But I just thought it'd be a good opportunity not only to see her on TV, but see her in the flesh here. And she's just been obviously a rock star student. And as we know, this doesn't fall far from the tree because we just had our recent, Employee of the Month. So you can see how this all works, comes together. But I just had her come here just to kind of talk about her experience. And you probably want to know what's next. And then just anything else that you'd like to share with them. But thank you for being here.
Okay, hi guys. Kind of put me on the spot. I am incredibly just amazed on how West-MEC has helped me with this disability that I have had to overcome over the years. It wasn't easy coming into the program just because I have to do things differently. I didn't know how I was going to do things. I was kind of nervous. I was hiding my arm a lot. I didn't know what people were going to think of me. But luckily I had Stacey Ray get involved and spent the whole summer before I started the program to understand how I would be able to do things. She was learning things with one arm and one hand, so then she would be able to help me throughout the program. And I'm also very amazed on how my classmates have helped me. They would help me get injections. They would come to me and be like, hey, maybe you can do it this way or you can do it that way. And especially with the three classmates, Jessica, Anelli, and Lola, they came up with a device to help me take off gloves and put on gloves. And IT has helped make that possible with their 3D printer. They did make it to nationals, sadly, only first round. But I am amazed on how my school year went. It might have been a little bump along the way, but we were able to figure it out. What's next for me is that I'm gonna go to Glendale Community College to become a nurse, and I'm hoping to go back home to Minnesota and go to university there, called Winona. And then I want to go back to my local hospital called Gillette Children's, where they focus on cerebral palsy and help the kids there.
Oh, that's awesome. Beautiful.
And Lauren got 4th place at nationals for her speech.
There's also mom and dad are in the audience as well, so thank you. I was getting a little teary-eyed as a parent. But thank you so much for being here.
How did you decide that you wanted to come to West-MEC? How did you get here?
What was your question?
How did you get to West-MEC?
I think it was the inspiration from my friend Aubrey. She went to dental assisting and she told me about like all the amazing things she was doing and how like she gets a head start in her career. So at the very end of junior year, I was researching, I was looking into different programs. I was like, nursing or physical therapy or medical assisting. And I noticed that medical assisting was coming out with a 1-year program. And then I started going to open house, follow your arrow, went to volunteering.
So it was a friend.
Yes.
Thank you, friend. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Any more questions?
I just want to say that it's a wonderful story and something that you might have seen as a disadvantage at first became a huge positive and it enriched the lives of not just yourself, but the life and experience of your fellow students who came up with this creative solution, your teacher who went out to look for other solutions, you know, and the IT department. It was like a school-wide effort. It's like incredible what happened. It's awesome. Love that.
Great.
Mr. Chair, I also just want to compliment the young lady. She doesn't have any disability, not at all. I saw the story. I think I had the same years.
We actually were already contacted.
I did when I saw it on channel 3. My compliments to her and her teacher.
Nationwide. I'm hoping to make it nationwide, so like it's not just me that uses it, but maybe if I go back to like my local hospital with some kids that have the same condition as me, it might be like more or less, but they would be able to use the device as well.
The veteran community, I have friends without limbs that are corpsmen. And so they're doing EMT work in California. I think another one's in New York that's doing EMT work, but I mean, anything you do with one arm that you can create to make it easier, better for folks to do their job, I think is phenomenal.
Yeah. And thank you to the teacher.
We are done, and if you have any questions, we are here for you.
Any questions from the board?
So, yeah, I had a question on how is our engagement with Phoenix Raceway? We get a lot of interactions, engagement with the community.
Yeah, we can pull metrics on that and share what, I can get Krista to share some of those, but yeah, we definitely, that's one of the ones where we had some high engagement. Or because we made several posts and those kind of things, not only with the launch, but also with some videos of students there engaging with that work-based learning opportunity, so.
How did they do the second race in April versus the October race?
How did they do as far as?
How did the engagement go and everything? Because like October, November was a big splash, and then it's like kind of the second time around, it's not as exciting. So I'm just curious what the engagement was and everything.
Well, I think the excitement is probably for both of them. It's just the first one I know is and I'm not a race person, so you know, don't quote me, but I think the first one is a cup race. And so they're gonna have more probably engagement that way because of it's like a playoff, I guess, is how I would think about it is. So you would tend to have more for that one, and the second one obviously is not as strong of a race from a playoff type of standpoint, so.
Yeah, the Bernard Series would be more like a divisional race, while their championship weekend would be like the World Cup.
I know somebody has the right to win at the end of the season, it's the end of the season versus the beginning of the season. Any other questions?
Great job. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, real quick, Chris, one of the things it'd be helpful to understand is like from 19 to 23, we see all this increase. How did the staffing change? Like we had 190 tickets and now we're at 459 and then 502. How did staffing change? And then also on the engagement and the media stuff, was any of it paid? How much was paid versus organic?
Sure. I'm just writing down. You want this information sent to you or just when we have presentations again?
When we have presentations again, or if you can send it to us.
Okay. And then engagement paid versus organic?
Yeah, like when we do, when we do media, like I see that boost post, that means we can pay for more engagement. Do we do any of that in Facebook, and how does that engage versus like media posts?
Sure, we do based off of our high opportunity programs. So we work and we get the numbers at our cabinet, we kind of see where we're at. And then based off of those numbers, we might do some boosting or some paid ads for some of those type of programs. Typically around the enrollment kind of period.
It'd be really nice to see the results of that, like, hey, high opportunity program construction trades. We did a bunch of posts and we pushed enrollments from 6 to 50 or something, just like kind of tell us the whole story, not it's like, hey, this was the goal, this is how it worked. Because just seeing engagement is like, this is great, but tell us the whole story of, hey, this is how we were successful. Yeah.
So to that end, I can sign up with that. We have an internal and organic SEO program.
We work specifically very strong these past year and a half on SEO. We will continue that with our new website that we're launching because our current company got bought out by a new company. And we have a lot more opportunities to do stronger SEO tags on the new site. Not getting too technical, but right now, if you go to our website, you'll just see something that says, westmec.org/paid page ID and a number. We can start tagging it and actually putting in like adult ed or those kind of things. We also work significantly on keywords in our information on the website. And we have a lot of data to show that we've increased our SEO doing those things over the past year.
And is that a program that's suitable for West-MEC to be teaching? The SEO process, but also the content and all the aspects of an SEO.
Sure, no, it's
Think it out loud here.
It's a good question. I mean, digital is not going away. SEO and all those kind of things, digital advertising, programmatic advertising where you're able to hit multiple targets. It's definitely something that's increasing. I don't have enough knowledge to say what the demand, is for that. And that's typically where you start, right, from a business standpoint. What's the demand? What's the certification? Those kind of things. But I definitely think that's something digital is not going away. SEO is not going away. So, and I don't think, I could be wrong, but I don't think our member districts have a program like that. It's something, I can't say we can look into it, but I appreciate the idea.
Any other questions? Mr. Miglerino, any questions for communication? Hearing none, we'll move on. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Ms. Mays, self-funding benefits plan.
Good evening, Chairman Straka, members of the governing board. Marcy and I are happy to present to you a timeline for the conversion to self-funded insurance coverage. This was a recommendation by the governing board last school year, was to explore this option. So in order for us to make it work, make sure we had enough time to communicate with employees, make sure that we get the best coverage available at the best cost. We wanted to make sure we stayed on track, we started early, and we had an actual plan as to how we were going to make the conversion happen. So we sent you the timeline in your governing board agenda updates. So I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have about the proposal.
I appreciate that you did this.
Yeah. It was a group that's joint effort. Yeah.
Mr. Miglerino, you usually have questions on this kind of stuff. I'll open it up to you. I'm like talking up to the speaker. Anybody else?
I have a question on the approval. When would the board approve that? Would that be in November or January?
In November, we would like to submit the plan to the governing board for.
Okay.
Typically with benefits, we like to get out ahead of offering contracts. Because it's a large portion of our budget. And we want to make sure that we incorporate that into our budget projections. And then also it helps us to determine what we have to do for increases for staff or additional benefits that we might offer.
So what is I know we've talked a lot about this in insurance. What is the underlying goal? It's like, hey, we're gonna go self-funded because what is the goal that we're trying to accomplish? What's the board? What should we be looking for as we trying to accomplish this?
That's a great question, Chairman Straka. What we're trying to accomplish is to have more control over our healthcare dollars. In a self-insured plan, you're not spending all of your healthcare dollars and sending it to a vendor like United Healthcare and or whatever. We actually keep those funds for West-MEC in an account with our benefits manager. So say, for example, we spent $4 million on insurance, but we only had $2 million in claims. This is a real kind of short answer. So that means that we would still have access to that $2 million. And over time, then if that money continues to build, we can use that to offset healthcare costs, you know, and we can use that for other things. So that's what we were looking for. It's just a financial decision for the district.
What would probably be helpful for the board is, I'm not aware of how self-funded works. Like, what is, what is, yeah, what is, how do we engage? Like, is there reinsurance? Is there multiple levels of reinsurance? I think the board would need some of that information to understand, hey, this is how we're moving forward, because you know, you talk about $2 million left. What if we have 2 employees with $1 million claims, 2 employees, you know, does that wipe us out or over a certain amount? And so all of that, I think it'd be good in a future meeting to have a presentation about how self-funding works.
Couple of examples.
Yeah.
Well, to briefly answer that question, Chairman Straka, in a self-insured plan, they have what's called stop loss coverage. So it's basically like insurance, private, right, to cover any potential large claims, so you would never spend that, you know.
Right. Yeah, that in the insurance world, that's what they call reinsurance. It's like, I'll cover you, but my limit to cover you is $25,000, and then those reinsurance companies might sell policies for their limits at $100,000, and so everybody takes a little bit of, it's like creating multiple deductibles.
Yeah, spreading the risk.
Yeah, spreading the risk, but I think it'd be helpful for us to understand.
On that,
Mr. Straka.
what Chairman Straka mentioned, can we add to the timeline? I don't see it on here in September, at least in September and October. Maybe some presentations on how it's going and some of the education for the board. Because otherwise, if we just hear about it for the first time in November and we have to vote for it, you're gonna get a lot of questions, a lot of blank stares and confusion from the board.
Okay, we can certainly do that.
You almost need to take us along. Hey, first thing.
Yeah.
What is self-insurance? Hey, these are the 3 vendors. These are why we picked these 3 vendors, and these are the differences. And then, you know, the benefit of, hey, we can design our own plan. What does that mean? What can we design? You know, what are the options? I think, Marcy, you mentioned you've already gone through this with other districts. Is this timeline realistic and everything? And so that's because, like Mr. Ramirez said, if we see it for the first time in November, we'll be here till midnight overwhelmed.
Self-funding, is there a minimum of participants that you have to have before you start?
No. No, one of the key things for self-funding is that you are financially stable enough to be able to have a reserve to pay for any, you know, claims. And you still work with actuaries that do projections for you based on not only what our employee experience is, but also what the market is doing, right? Because we know, you know, we can't control when our employees get sick, we know that. But we also have pharmaceutical expenses and medical expenses, and we make good choices based on the types of medical coverage that we offer. But we also take a look at the network we participate in, because some networks can control costs better than others. So there's a lot of factors that, you know, Kathy and I will look at when we're working with identifying which is the best provider. And they're really a management company that we'll bring to you for us and for what our needs are. And we obviously have been doing this for a while, so we both kind of know how this works and what the questions are to ask and we will work with the management company that's been doing it for a while.
Because what we're really looking for is definitely a robust plan at the best cost. And another thing that's really important to us is transparency. Because we always need to be able to know how many people are using, our claims, what are our pharmacy costs? All of that should be coming to us on a monthly basis so that we can monitor it. So whoever we select, we have to make sure that those three things are in place. Yes.
If you're having
Mrs.
to
Trika?
monitor all that information, do you have a projection on anticipated additional labor costs internal to West-MEC in order to monitor all of that? Question. Are you gonna have to look at hiring 1, 2, 3 more people to monitor all that information that otherwise an insurance company would be doing exclusively?
No, sir. To answer your question, thank you, Mr. Molina. We, right now, we get monthly reports from ASPE. So we're reviewing those all the time to see where we are, because what that does is it kind of helps us to be able to project what we think our increases should be. So I have, actually, I think some of you know this, but I sit on the ASPE trustee board right now. And so I'm very familiar with how trusts run, how self-insurance runs. And so the reports that we would be getting would just be from a different company. They're the same reports we look at every month.
And I used to sit on the advisory committee for Valley Schools. So I'm very, very familiar with the self-insured plans.
So we got the right people.
So next year looks like it's all planning and then it's gonna be executed the next school year.
Yes.
And I would add to Mr. Molina's question, one of the things, Ms. Mays, we talked about is your other goal is automation and a better HR system. Because trying to get we've been working to try to get answers on some things and it's just, the system isn't there. And they're looking to have a more streamlined HR system that takes people from application into first day of, and it's not multiple systems, and it's not a system that, hey, board member asked a question, I have to look up 180 records, tally everything up to get an answer. And so moving to a better HR system, automation is always the answer. I think it should be automation and not, so that's my plug, that Ms. Mays needs a better HR system.
We're gonna look at contracts for that too. We have products in mind for that, or
For
the new HRIS system sounds like.
We are looking at a system that we actually already have in place, but just haven't used it to its full capacity for our application process that would move employees from application to onboarding all the way into the new hire, putting them into vision. So that's an example of what Chairman Straka is talking about. And we're also looking at electronic cars. So we're just trying to automate it, make our systems more efficient or something.
And the enrollment in benefits will be online
Yes.
next year. when we
Through
go
iVision.
to this new system.
What's this new system called?
iVisions is the online enrollment. Yeah. And Frontline is the system that we're gonna use for application process.
It sounds like you've got it under control.
We're working, I'm so glad she's here. She has no idea.
And keep in mind, we're just turning 21 this year, so, as a district was much smaller back in the days, now we're starting to gravitate to a much larger system. And so we just have to change with the sign of the times.
And when I was started on the board, there were, I think, 9 or 12 employees. HR systems for 9 employees versus 180 is totally different.
Excel spreadsheet, that was the old.
I'm sure. Any other
Mr.
questions?
Straka,
Yeah, Mr. McLarino.
I apologize when you called on me before. I didn't unmute my mic quick enough. It's very important for the board to understand this because we may go through a period, we think we're going to do it. We're going to save a lot of money. I don't know that that'll happen. But I know that long range will save money and long range will have better coverage. The other thing that I want to bring out is not only is it important to educate the board, but boy, I'll tell you, when you change an employee's insurance, you want to have the mute button ready because we need to fully engage them in what's going on and let them know ahead of time that their concerns and cares will be addressed. Thank you.
Yes, you see the aggressive timeline.
Anything else, Mr. Miglerino? We kind of look to you. You're the expert in this area.
No, that's it. Thank you. Yeah, old age only gives you perspective on what happened then. What's going on now might be something already different.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Williams.
Good afternoon, Chairman Straka, members of the board. I think it's afternoon. I don't know. We're getting close to the evening cutoff. So
30 minutes.
Yes, good evening, Chairman Straka, members of the board, Superintendent Spurgeon. Thank you for the opportunity to share some updates from on the legislative front as well as some partnership updates. As they say, don't bury the lead. The legislature adjourned sine die June 15th. With budget passed that nobody's real thrilled about on either side of the aisle. Which oftentimes for the general public, that's a good thing. But some stats from this session, again, the budget bills were dropped midday, June 12th. They really kind of worked through the 13th, 14th and adjourned Saturday evening around 10 o'clock that night to get the session closed. As such, the general effective date of all of those bills that were signed into law will be September 14th. It's always 90 days after the adjournment. We saw just shy of 1,800 bills, memorials, resolutions introduced, 260 of those signed, 73 vetoed. It was relatively a contentious policy year, but the state's fiscal standing, I think, is what made the budget development process and conversations very difficult. And some highlights from the budget package, $16.1 billion budget package for the state, representing about a 3.5% cut from state agencies, the canceling of $333 million plan deposit into the Water Infrastructure Finance Authority, delaying some highway projects and a very variety of other transfers. Specific to education, it saw an override of the aggregate expenditure limit for FY25, so we won't be faced with that uncertainty in the spring. It did see that increase in base level funding by 2%. Funds, the DAA, Marcy talked about this earlier, that's our capital outlay dollars for $29 million for FY25. The change there is they've shifted that from an ongoing expenditure to a one-time allotment with the intent to resume that FY28. I did ask Ms. Rodriguez earlier, like, what does that mean for West-MEC? What does the state budgeting $29 million in DAA translate to for West-MEC's budget? And we walked through that and she explained it's about $5 million that goes into our capital from that allocation based on ADO. So that's all. Everything is formula driven based on ADO.
Is that $5 million every year or till 28?
No, so it has been an ongoing budget item. The change this year is that they changed that to a one-time for FY25 with the intent to return that to ongoing in FY28. So right now, as it stands, 26, 27 would not be funded at that same level. Dual enrollment saw a cut, and that was kind of part of that post-secondary reduction that we talked about. Dual enrollment, there had been $15 million allocated to reimbursing tuition for dual enrollment to those students and families. That was cut from 15 million to 12. No, cut by 12 million to 3 million. So that essentially ends that tuition reimbursement for our students by and large. House Bill 2909 requires school districts to issue contracts on or after March 15th of each year. So just keep that in mind as we go into that timeline for contracts and considerations in the spring, that March 15th, and there's a lot that goes into maybe why that became legislation, but I think some teachers didn't necessarily want to be forced to commit to a contract prior to March 15th. So we're usually right around that timeline anyway. So on or after March 15th for teacher contracts. The $1 million allocated for CTED completion grants continues. So that was good news for us. It was something that we hoped would remain in the budget package. And that allows for a student that graduates but has completed 50% of a program to come back essentially in grade 13 to finish the last year of that program. And that's reimbursed by the state. We talked earlier about some of the post-secondary cuts that were realized. Universities saw about 3.5% cut to their budgets. The community college, close to that same amount statewide. I think we saw, I didn't capture the dollar amount, but it was a pretty good, I think $45 million across the board for the state's community colleges. One thing that remained an uncertainty throughout the session was whether or not they were going to be able to get something on the ballot for Prop 123, which is that state land trust share. They had approved in 2016 to increase that from 2.5% to 6.9%. And that is set to expire June of 25 at the end of this fiscal year. So something needed to be referred to the ballot this session in order to get it on the November ballot. The governor had a proposal, the House and Senate leadership each had proposals. Nobody could quite get on the same page with what they wanted to look like. They were concerned that division would translate to whatever made it to the ballot not passing. So they wanted, the thinking is there will likely be a special election either called by the legislature or the governor in the spring to address Prop 123 once they're able to come up with a plan that works for everybody. All the plans really allocate most of those dollars to teacher salaries. The difference with the governor's plan was to increase the 6.9%, I believe, up to 8%, and to include all employees and not just limit it to the certificated teachers. With that, I'll go on to just unless there's any questions specific to the state budget or the session, I'll go on to some other highlights just since we've met last.
I do have a question.
Yes.
You said the dual enrollment program was cut from what dollar amount to 3 million?
15 to 3, down
15?
by 12 million. And last year was the first year they did that. And the students that qualify for free and reduced lunch, which we don't really have that information. It was at 50 per credit hour, $100 per credit hour that students could be reimbursed with that grant. So it was just a kind of a nominal, it's not nominal, it's a big number, but in relation to the entire state, it's a small number of awarded dollars.
So does that affect us heavily then, or?
It doesn't affect our budget directly. It affects our
Students.
Yeah, our students are impacted by that. We had students that took advantage of that reimbursement. Those dual enrollment opportunities still exist, but those families would have to pay the cost per credit. It's because of our career literacy efforts to really talk through with families and students the pathway and how they would leverage post-secondary to advance their career. We don't really support just kind of accumulating random credits at the post-secondary level. That's costly. And it begins a clock ticking for FAFSA. It generates a college transcript that some students don't realize that if you withdraw or fail that course, that's on there permanently until you pass that course. So we're very intentional about talking dual enrollment with our students, and we want students to do post-secondary with a purpose. So most students that find themselves in that situation would realize that it's a good return on their dollar. But, you know, it was nice while we had that funding to be able to reimburse those families.
So so on that note, communication wise, have we identified those students to be able to talk? The students aren't gonna know the law. They're not savvy, they're not adults. They're not gonna know. Chances are the parents aren't even following it. They're gonna show up expecting something that was there last year. It's not gonna be there this year. Is there a way for us to identify those students and maybe send them an email or something more direct and, hey, by the way, this is what happened and this is kind of talk them through it, what their options are, so they don't think that we left them behind or something.
Chairman Straka, board members, I think that it applies to all of our students. So we've got really a large majority of our programs that have dual enrollment articulation. And we have our community college partners come in and talk through those opportunities with our students. So the change is in the last few years, we've been able to talk about the opportunity to get reimbursed. Now, we won't even provide that information as an opportunity. It's just, we'll let them know that this will be available to you. If you choose to opt for that credit, you would pay the tuition and that would generate the credit on your community college transcript.
Mr. Garcia, much of that information comes through the CalPlink system. Okay. Through individual satellite districts, and then we'll take care of our own students here, many of which have already gone on and graduated the program. So just be new students coming in that would have never been part of it, just the ones that may be in a 2-year program that may be notified.
Right, because I think that as our students are different than other students, we should definitely have a great communication plan that's very transparent, that's going to impact every kid as they show up, whether it affects the budget or not.
Okay.
I think those kind of things. I'll ask another question with the salaries that the governor was trying to push out. Did you recall seeing a number of what she wanted teacher salaries to be at? I mean, she wanted salaries to go up. Any additional information of what she's looking at or?
Chairman Straka, Board Member Garcia, I don't remember. I know that the Senate's leadership had, I believe, like a percentage attached trying to increase teacher salaries by, I remember if it was 5 or 10%. I don't recall that being in the governor's plan, that there was a dollar amount or a percentage. I don't recall seeing.
But she put it in the language. She wanted to see teachers.
She wanted to see the full percent go toward all school personnel.
Right. So for us as a board, but that'll affect our teachers out as well, right? Yeah. Thank you.
A few other updates just from the last month. We had an opportunity to tour our partners from TSMC, their education and training team at our Southwest campus. Dr. Spurgeon, myself, Jared, Guy, Julie Rodriguez. Want to commend Dr. Parsons leading that tour on the site there. Really being able to speak to the technical aspects of the program so that they could come in and see it in person. Seeing is believing. I think we've all experienced that the first time you kind of picture CTE and West-MEC, and then when you see it, you understand that this is the real deal. So that was a great opportunity, and they're going to, we're going to look for an opportunity to bring their technical team on site as well so that they can see that. They're very excited about what West-MEC's doing with our programming, advanced or energy and manufacturing systems at the Southwest campus, as well as our automation and robotics, and then the growth that they're going to realize at the Northeast campus in close proximity to them and the Southeast campus in the future. Last month, I talked a little bit about STOs, these student tuition organizations, and the recent attention given to whether or not they could attend a CTED and continue to receive their STO scholarship. Again, STOs have communicated to their families that you can no longer attend a CTED, and if you do, your STO scholarship may be at risk. And that is a literal interpretation of statute. It says that you cannot be simultaneously enrolled in a public district and receive your STO scholarship. This is carryover from a different educational landscape. And Dr. Spurgeon and I, he mentioned earlier that we had the opportunity to meet with leadership from the city of Peoria. And through that conversation, a connection was made with the director of the Department of Revenue, Rob Woods. And in the last month, he has been working in earnest with us to really bring some clarity around this for these STO families. And I've had the chance to meet with them. I'm getting my days mixed up. It was earlier this week or last week. I think it was last Friday. I met with Director Woods and his general counsel for the department, really looking at the statute, really looking at the current STO manual administered by the Department of Revenue, trying to create a rationale that would allow STO recipients to register for a CTED course program and pay tuition out of pocket, thereby not putting their STO scholarship at risk. So I think the path forward is that rationale will be made. They will require a 30-day public comment period. Once that is finished, then notice and guidance can be provided to the STOs by the Department of Revenue, bringing the clarity that they need to provide to those families that they can continue to take advantage of career and technical education opportunities through a CTED without risking their STO. Some families may not have the answer they're looking for prior to the start of school in August, and some families may do an analysis of their situation and opt to go the ESA route as opposed to the STO route, because ESA students are allowed to pay tuition and attend a CTED. But those will be families individual. Those will be decisions individual families make for themselves. West-MEC really in this process has not been given any directive from the Department of Education or the Department of Revenue. We're really just trying to do right by our families and making sure that they've got all the information at their disposal, and we're advocating on their behalf so that they can continue to have access to high quality CTE.
And I think that's important for people to know, is that West-MEC took a leadership role in making this happen.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate that.
Your relationship or your meeting with the Mr. Woods and his staff, I think is, and students and families need to know that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
May not be the answer they want, but it's an answer.
But still need to know that.
We know how many students this affects?
For West-MEC, it's about 26 students going into this next school year.
Classroom.
Other CTEDs, I think I heard from Pima JTED that they're just over 100 students that this could impact. Yeah. And I think those numbers will grow over time. So we want to try and get ahead of it and bring some clarity to this topic. I also had the chance, Dr. Spurgeon graciously appointed or recommended me to fill Stephen Welch's seat representing West-MEC on the West-MEC Board of Directors. So I had the opportunity to attend my first West-MEC Board of Directors meeting, and looking for ways that we can really leverage that relationship in support of what we're doing and how we can engage business and industry through West-MEC. You know, they are kind of that West Valley economic development convener, and you know, look forward to representing West-MEC in that capacity. And lastly, I had the opportunity to attend the change of command ceremony on Luke Air Force Base June 1st, last week Monday, and July 1st, and it was a really neat ceremony, and we've got a really strong relationship with Luke Air Force Base, and obviously our Project Search program housed there, but in other ways as well. And we know that some of our students will seek that pathway when they complete West-MEC. And we had the opportunity to welcome Brigadier General Select David Birkland, who is taking over command of the 56th Fighter Wing out at Luke Air Force Base. It was bittersweet because that meant we were saying goodbye to Brigadier General Jason Rushop, who has just been phenomenal. But meeting both of them, I think we're in good hands. They share very similar philosophies. They are very community focused and value the partnership that we've got with them. That concludes my update. Stand for any questions.
I had a question. There's a lot of discussion recently about vocational villages. Where there's CTEs at incarcerated areas. The juvenile center to include the young adults that are incarcerated. There is a standing CTE course in the young adult. I don't think that comes from us. And have you, as West-MEC, been involved in any of those conversations at all?
Chairman Straka, Board Member Garcia, not specifically around vocational villages. We have had a longstanding relationship with Adobe Mountain specifically because of where they sit within our footprint. And they're managed a little bit differently. They're technically a state agency, even their education component. They don't receive any ADM. They don't work with ADE. They're directly down the line of the governor. And we've worked closely with their site principal that's on there. Some of their teachers actually come and attend and take advantage of West-MEC professional development. Their CTE teachers. It's obviously a unique environment. We can't necessarily have some of our training spaces in that environment. We've talked with Frank Burnstead, who's the principal there, and trying to find creative ways that, especially Northeast Campus is literally 3 miles down the road. Are there ways that we can leverage our CTED and support pathways for these students? And it oftentimes kind of stalls out in some of the red tape that exists. They're not on our end. But we'll continue to work with their instructors and try to equip them as best we can and look for ways to maybe get creative around serving the student population there. We've not worked with the county detention facilities. The challenge there is through the Superintendent Steve Watson's office, we are able to connect with some of those students that are transitioning out of the detention facility. They've got kind of this heat map and interactive resource. But because of how most of those juveniles are in those detention facilities for 2 weeks. So they're in and out of there before we would even have a chance to connect with them. But through our member districts and homeschool connections, we try to reduce recidivism however we can. How do we connect with those students as they're transitioning out of those facilities to give them a path forward and not going back? I don't know if I answered your question, but
kind of sort.
Yeah, I'll look up vocational villages.
Well, even if it was nothing more than making them aware or more aware of the CTE opportunities that are available to them through West-MEC. So when they spend their 2 weeks there and then come back to their regular high school or whatever, they can then say, the light's gone off. I don't have to go down this road here. I can go the CTE route. So I think that might be the best that we could do, given the transition period so short.
Just one of the snacks we run into is most of our programs are hour specific to be able to sit for certifications. And if you're in the school year more than 10 days, you probably can't meet the hours to be able to sit for certification. So depending on when that juvenile may be in detention, if it's during the regular school year, they may completely opt themselves out of the program simply for the hour requirement. But that necessarily means we can't do more in awareness to make sure that the timeline's understood and that those opportunities could exist for students who could be eligible to apply.
I know there's been a lot of conversation about that, and it's Michigan that has the model that they were looking at. There, a lot of our state leaders went down there to do a tour to bring some of that back here. Yeah. So a lot of discussion with Anna Hunter and her group, DES, and Department of Education. So maybe something coming down.
A worthwhile conversation to have. Mr. Guy and I spent quite a bit of time working with both the two detention facilities and the correctional facility, and probably have a lot of opinions on that. But yeah, we'd love to see some attention paid to that.
Are they shutting down the one at Happy Valley, or what is it, Deer Valley? Or, because when I drive by it, the north half of it is always empty. And you can tell it doesn't look like it's being used. And I can't imagine that with the growing population, we have less juvenile detention.
Yeah, Chairman Strong, I've not heard of any plans to shut it down. I would love if they could just level that and create a new facility. It's much like we experience at West-MEC. I think students walk into our space and rise to the occasion. I think young people in that environment reflect their environment. Thank you.
Right. Right, that brings us to the consent agenda. At this point, I heard someone say they wanted to pull something from the consent agenda.
I'd like to pull H8 for discussion again.
H8 sole source vendor. Okay.
I would like to pull 5.
The teacher performance evaluation. All right. Anything else?
It's number 7, overnight and not educational. 7.
All right. We'll pull 5, 7, and 8. I would entertain a motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda minus those 3 items.
So moved.
By Ms. Bosom. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Molina. Let us know when you're ready, Ms. Brown. Right. What is the pleasure of the board? Would you like to address consent agenda items?
Hold on, I'm still waiting. Mr. Migliorino, I don't have your vote. Can I have a verbal yes or no, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Do you want us to put those at the bottom of the discussion items or first, Ms. Brown?
No, we can actually, you can just go right to H5 is the first one, right?
Yeah, you have 5, yeah, 5, but yeah, 5 is the first one numerically.
I'm.
So 5, 7, and 8, you want to go in that order?
Just go 5, 7.
All right, let's go to number 5, teacher performance evaluation tool. Your guy, welcome back, long time.
Yes. So teacher evaluation, I'd be happy to give, I'll give a brief, maybe summary, to really kind of help simplify the whole process for you. And then, of course, answer any questions you might have, or maybe start. Yes.
I looked at it, 20 pages.
Yes.
I've never been a teacher. I've never had to evaluate a teacher. But I would like to see it through the eyes of the teachers. How many hours did have to stay dealing with this? How hence it what it is for them. We need our teachers. I don't want to lose any teachers. So that's my main concern from their eyes. I know you guys will do a great job.
Yes, there. Yes, thank you, Ms. Wiley. So it is, so that whole document, so what you see in front of you there, that 20-page document summarizes the entire teacher evaluation process. What the teachers really interact with is the performance scales. So that start on page 13 of that document. That's what they really see through the evaluation process that happens twice a year. So the 75% of the teacher evaluation system is based on, there's 5 domains that the teachers are evaluated on twice a year. The first one in the fall is a formative evaluation, meaning that is They go through the whole process, which includes a pre-conference with the teacher. The evaluator, their administrator goes in, watches instruction, and then they have a post-conference where they provide the teacher feedback. So they do that twice a year. So they do that in the fall, but the fall is a formative meeting. It doesn't count. It's an opportunity for some feedback with the teacher. Hey, here's some areas maybe of improvement you might make. Here's some strategies and some support. And then they do that again in the spring semester and they go through that same process. So 75%.
They don't have to do a lot of reading beforehand or preparing, or it's here's what we expect and we'll evaluate.
Exactly. So that outlines, so those performance skills outline, here's the expectation, and they go, so prior to that, so let me back up a little bit. So prior to that, with all of our teachers in our professional development, so all of our professional development courses that our teachers go through in our teacher induction academy are preparing them to perform on that evaluation.
So a lot of their work has been learned at the beginning.
That's correct. That's correct. And then through our teacher, so this, as an example, just this summer, we had a whole session, a half-day session with all of our teachers in the district to go through the performance scales, because to your point, we spent a lot of work over the last year simplifying these. So what you're seeing in front of you tonight is greatly simplified from where it's been in the past several years. So we spent really the last year, a little over a year, there was a committee that we formed of administrators, our CNI team, curriculum instruction team, our professional development team, and teachers, where we really looked at, because they were very comprehensive before. And so we reduced them down, just for your reference. There used to be 6 domains and 30 different components that were part of those rating. And we reduced that down to 5 domains and 18 components. So we almost cut it in half.
Wow.
We still maintained the quality and the expectations that we want, but we simplified wording. We really broke it down to what are the most essential pieces, because we want to make sure our teachers can understand it. We want to make sure they understand it, they know exactly what's expected, and then we're preparing them with professional development and formal and informal feedback to be successful on that evaluation. And so that's the meat of what the teacher sees. That document that you see here really just breaks down. So the other 25% of the system is the data pieces. We're required by statute to between 20 and 33% of their overall evaluation. So that 75% comes from that scoring on those rubrics with their evaluator. And at the end of the year, 25% comes from student achievement metrics. And those include, the growth on our West-MEC assessments, their ADE assessments.
To me, that would be the story right there, just the end results.
Yeah, so that evaluation score, that forms 75%, and then 25% comes in from all those data points. And so the documents really explain the details of how that all comes together to form the total score for the teacher. So it does look a little complicated, but we've tried to simplify those documents as much as we can, but also to be transparent, so that the teachers and everybody knows how that score comes together. Because at the end of all of that, the teacher gets an effectiveness rating, highly effective, developing, or ineffective. Again, that's required by statute, and we report that based on that overall evaluation.
And what happens if they're ineffective or they need some work or whatever? How do you help them get there?
Yeah, so great question. So usually, if we're doing that formative evaluation in the fall, we're able to identify early on if there's some major areas where they're ineffective or they're developing, they need some support. So that's where our curriculum instruction specialists come into play, and our campus administrators. We really come in then and provide them additional professional development, one-on-one support, whatever is needed to get that teacher up to a level of effectiveness. The way we've designed our tool, and this is not always the case, we've always been mindful of, we really want this to be a growth and development process for the teacher. At the end of the day, if a teacher has gone through and had every opportunity and is still not performing, we may get to the opportunity where that might not be the right fit for that teacher.
Which makes sense.
But but we really want to make sure we give teachers every opportunity to improve. And developing on this tool is okay. Developing on this tool for a brand new teacher, lot of our brand new teachers might be in developing in some of these areas. They've never stepped in a classroom before, but over a course of years and through our teacher induction
But
academy.
as long as they're introduced to that right in the beginning.
Yep.
And they're working off of that, that makes sense.
Correct. So we provide that support. Now, if we have a teacher that is, we do have in policy, if a teacher, if there's several domains that are in that ineffective category, then we also would go on to a formal improvement plan process with the teacher, where we would put them on a written formal improvement plan with very specific areas and a timeline for them to improve upon. And again, that's all their state statutes we follow to help a teacher get through that process and improve, or again, if they, or help them find a better direction.
So we've used this rubric. And it may have changed, but we've been using this throughout the years.
Absolutely. And so that's what you see in front of you is a much more simplified and streamlined version. But yes, we do this every year. This teacher evaluation gets approved. We're mandated to have this teacher evaluation process and the qualified evaluators that we train every year to make sure that they can evaluate on the system.
And Ms. Wiley, there's differences in the developing criteria or what that really means to folks. Because if you look at a skill, is it a skill issue or a will issue? So being a developing, you actually have the will to want to get better. That's different than not wanting the effort to get better. You still have the skills or the skill set to get better. Yeah, we go through all that.
Mr. Molina?
Hypothetically speaking, if the teacher is ineffective, then we have to surmise then that the instruction is ineffective. Yes. So what impact is that having on that student or students? And how are we stepping in to mitigate that?
Yeah, so, yes, Mr. Draco, Ms. Molina, yes, absolutely. And that's why we do take this process very seriously, because, you know, at the end of the day, this effectiveness, what we're establishing is this is what effective is. We're doing that because we know what's going to impact students positively or not. And so if a teacher is ineffective on several of those categories, that's where we would immediately trigger a formal improvement plan. And that formal improvement plan would have a very strict timeline, and it could be within, if there's not improvements made, like Dr. Spurgeon, if that teacher has the will to improve and is willing to make those improvements, we will throw all the resources we have to help them get better and make those improvements in a short amount of time. But if they don't in that time frame, we would have to remove them from the classroom if they're negatively impacting students in that way. I will tell you, that is rare. But through our hiring process, and that is a rare circumstance for the teachers that we've had at West-MEC. Most of the time, the teachers that come in have phenomenal content knowledge. They're coming from industry. Yes, there's some areas they need to learn in teaching for sure, being the first time in the classroom. But we're able to get them up to speed pretty quickly. And so it's rare that we have to do that, but there are examples of situations where we've had to put that into place very quickly and find a different direction for a teacher.
So generally speaking, then any issues, and from what I've seen in my short period on the board and having toured the campuses, it seems to me that all the teachers, all the instructors that I've met are very engaged and very willing, and they're there because it's an avocation for them.
Yes.
And so any shortfalls might be in the processes of teaching. How do you teach? How do you get this information across? That can be taught, especially if you have the desire to pick it up. So yeah, and that's why I framed it as a hypothetical.
Absolutely.
Wait, I have another question. You know, we've often talked about, instead of giving the flat % raises to everybody, talked about giving evaluations, you know, to our teachers and to all of the employees. Could this be used to that effect?
In relation,
Do we do this for all of our employees?
we do, so all of this teacher evaluation, the process we evaluate our teachers on is much more comprehensive than process we evaluate the rest of our staff on. And so our teacher evaluation process is tied to our classroom site funds. So based on some of the elements in how they perform here on those rubrics, for example, work-based learning, leadership development, their level, they'll score there, then translates to their classroom site fund plan and how much they earn in those categories. So their teachers currently, their evaluation is tied, their performance pay, is tied to the evaluation system. That makes sense. But their base pay is the same, but then their performance, their 301 classroom site fund on top of that is tied back to their evaluation performance.
So help me. Because I hear 20 pages and I looked at it and there's a lot of ambiguities or subjective words there. Become strong leaders. Define a strong leader versus a somewhat strong leader. And so that's my first thing, but here's my second question is, we train the trainers, how much time does it take to train the evaluators? How then for each teacher, how much time does the evaluator spend with the teacher? And how much time is for each teacher do we gather all these metrics? So at the end of the year, how much time is spent by West-MEC to complete one evaluation?
That's a big question. So it is, so our administrators, so just maybe I'll back up and start. So all of our administrators do qualified evaluator training. We do 2 times a year. We bring all of our evaluators together for qualified evaluator training. That's a full half-day training that we do every single year with all of our evaluators, all of our administrators who are the certified evaluators.
So how many people is that?
That was a different agenda item.
Agenda item 6.
And so
Yeah, it's on there, 6.
6, and all of those, just so Mr. Straka, all of those are certified administrators, so part of their principal certification process in the state of Arizona, they also come already to us, and many of our administrators are coming with experience in other districts, so they're not new to the evaluation process, even though our system might look a little bit different. They're very used to doing this process and have been trained through their certification process and through their previous districts that they've been in. So they come to us with training, but we still do that twice a year so that we can calibrate. And a lot of time is spent in that training to make sure that we're calibrating as evaluators all together, that we're all talking the same language with teachers so that we're very clear on what's expected so that our teachers know what's expected. So we do that twice a year. And then to go to the time commitment, so two evaluation cycles per teacher per year. And what that looks like, again, is a pre-conference, and that pre-conference is usually a 30-minute pre-conference to 30 to 45-minute pre-conference. And then they go evaluate a lesson for a minimum of 75 minutes that they're in the classroom evaluating that teacher. And then they schedule separately a post-conference. So depending on the number of teachers on campus and the number of administrators, they would divide up the teachers and do that.
Yeah, so just keep walking through the teachers. So now I've had this administrator 30 minutes pre-conference, 75 minutes evaluation. How much time does the administrator spend writing up the report of the evaluation? Then how long is that post-conference? And then we haven't even got to all the metrics and everything for all this other stuff. So I'm hearing, 1 to 2 days per teacher of evaluation time, at least. This sounds like a very administrative heavy process.
Well, apparently it's the way they do it. I mean, we're not gonna change the whole system.
Right, I guess.
I think it's something that needs to be done too,
Well, the real question too is how much of this, you mentioned that you are required by state regulations to do this, right?
That's correct.
Is this more than what the state is requiring, or is this exactly just what the
requirement, but certainly meeting state statute and requirements. And it used to be much more stringent up until in 2019, the legislation, there was a bill that changed it out, allowed us some more flexibility.
Yeah.
Prior to 2019, it was, you had to use there was like 2 evaluation tools in the state. You had to just take those lockstep and use those. Fortunately, since 2019, we've had more flexibility. So we've been able to customize the rubrics so that it meets the needs of our CTE teachers. That's when we added the work-based learning, the CTSO, because that made sense for the expectations of our teachers. And so we have that flexibility to do that, but we still, that 20 to 33% still has to be tied to performance metrics of students. And so we're meeting the requirements, but I will tell you, I've been worked in a few different school districts. I work for Maricopa County Education Service Agency. What we have in front of you is probably the most streamlined evaluation system that is out there with teachers right
Taking
now.
a person from industry and the end result at the end of the year, I don't think it's too many. I mean, from what he has explained, I'm happy with the limit that they put on the teachers.
Yeah, I just would say, if the students are competing and making it to state and national, their teaching has to be effective or they wouldn't get there. If the students are getting certifications, the teaching has to be effective or they wouldn't get the certifications. If they're getting a job, why can't we use some of that and not have to bury the teachers in paperwork?
I think they do after the first or second year.
Well, but it's not necessarily the teachers that are being buried in paperwork.
It's the administrators.
And, from my perspective, that's part of what your job is as an administrator, is to evaluate those people that are working underneath you. So it's.
How much is
very
the
time-
administrator and how much is the teacher picking up work to do this?
A lot of the paperwork side of it is on the administrator to complete the evaluation process, the paperwork behind it, filling all of that out is on the administrative side. The teachers obviously are preparing for that evaluation. They're preparing their lesson plan for that lesson, but those are things they would be doing already.
Anyway, yeah.
Doing that already. So it is a lot of time, but it's really a valuable feedback process. And Mr. Straker, I would say the reason we're getting some of the results that we're getting is because of the time our administrators can spend one-on-one with teachers, providing them that direct feedback it goes hand in hand to provide that support. But I will tell you, our administrators are very mindful of, and the reason we went through the efforts to try to streamline this as much as we possibly can, with still maintaining some expectations, is because to try to reduce that burden on the teachers.
Yeah.
I will tell you this, with our campus administrators who are sitting behind us, are constantly advocating to make sure that we are not burdening our teachers with undue things that we don't need to be. So we're very mindful.
And I would agree with Mr. Molina, it's the administrator's job. I just want to make sure it stays the administrator's job and it's not the teacher. It's like, oh, I'm gonna spend 5 days gathering paperwork.
He addressed my question.
And I agree with the chairman, the ARS 155537 that talks about the actual requirements. But I do think that streamlining I hate using the word streamlining, because it almost sounds like you're cutting things out that are necessary. But I would say think outside the box. Yeah, when you're a policy writer, you think outside the box. You take a look at what the requirements are, equal that with what your capabilities are and what is you're trying to accomplish. So do you need 20 pages worth of this stuff? Look at the 20 pages, some of it is redundant. I would just say,
They improved it this time, I'm
Right.
sure they'll do it again.
yeah, keep on improving it, think outside the box, the norms. The things that we have always done, that's a horrible excuse to keep doing it. I think we're a very creative group. I would think that you guys are thinking in those contexts.
Yeah, so in other states, it's been where a teacher after a certain number of years, 3 to 5 years, becomes what's considered a master teacher. And so the number of required observations has been reduced to maybe just one summative year. But the formative part, especially with the early on teachers in the first 3 to 5 years, is extremely critical, because you can't wait until the end of the year to find out someone had a very bad year. Because then once you get past April 15th, they're automatically renewed, they're coming back no matter whether you like it or you don't. So it's good for us, but maybe there's something by statute that we might be able to think critically or think outside the box to say, at a period of time of 3 to 5 years, if you show some tremendous success, maybe every 3 years you get the formative, but every year you just get one summative.
So you could, yeah, that's a good one. And we will continue every year, in those QET and that training, we also take the opportunity to really look at the tool. So 100% every year, we will look to how can we streamline this? How can we make it meaningful for teachers? How can we make this meaningful for everybody involved in the process?
Yeah, I think communication is key, and I really like that we have those guidelines in place, that we can communicate to our teachers what we expect of them, so that they can perform. If they don't know it, they are not gonna do it. But you said that this rubric is used for classified site funding. And we talked about this earlier in the year, or was the last year, whenever we gave the raises. To change it, instead of doing a flat percentage, go ahead and evaluating all of our employees, and can we use this? Since we have it in place, for our teachers, I know we have it in place for all of our employees. We can use this.
So
That kind of a metric.
it's a great question, but we're kind of getting off the agenda item. It's a great question, but I gotta keep us on the agenda. So if there's anything else about the rubric or the process, otherwise I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. We're fine with it.
Okay, there's been anything else about this topic? I appreciate where you're going. I'd love to have a conversation with it, but we gotta stay on the agenda. Hearing no more conversation, Ms. Brown, we're ready for the question.
So do I have a motion second?
Yeah, Ms. Wiley and seconded by Mr. Garcia.
Sorry, I was making sure the motion was there. So I have motion to approve teacher evaluation tool for the 24-25 school year. That was the recommended motion.
And thank you, Mr. Guy.
Mr. Migliorino, will you be giving me a verbal? Yes,
Yes, because that's all I can do.
thank you.
Yes, this is verbal, yes. All right, very good. We'll move on to the next item. Number 7, out-of-state travel.
Yes, I have a question, or a couple of questions. One is there an annual budget for out-of-state travel? And also, is there a limit? Do we limit how much I don't know if there's a limit per campus, per individual? How is that money allocated?
I guess maybe to help educate the board, could we just, can I reframe your question? What is our travel budget and how do we determine that who goes and what is the benefit to West-MEC? How is it approved?
And are there limits?
Yeah, so the requirements for student travel, most of the student travel that is presented is for CTSO travel. So just like we talked about earlier tonight, all of our students either going to state or national competition. So any student that is going to those has qualified to go compete at those. So it's not, so at the regional level, students compete. If they qualify for a state competition, then there is, some travel for that. Skills USA, the state competition's in Phoenix. There's no overnight travel for that. But for example, HOSA is down in Tucson. So there is overnight travel for that state competition. That is one example, but it's only the students who have qualified at the regional level to go compete at the state level that are eligible to go attend that competition. And so there's never been, we've always supported in the past, any students that qualify their travel expenses to those competitions. Now, so there's never been a budget cap. We, over the last few years have made sure that their students are paying some of that transportation cost. Some of it's coming from their CTSO funds. So it's hard to say a total there's various funds of where the money's coming from for that travel.
I'm sorry, clarification. My question was not about the students, it's about travel for administrators, teachers to conferences.
So thank you, Member Shaka and Member Ramirez. The budgets that have been established were established in May prior to me taking my position. But they are for each campus, we look at budgets and they request the budgets. Now, a lot of these conferences are conferences that we attend annually. For instance, there's going to be a conference that we attend down in Tucson. Out-of-state travel for our administrators, that's looked at and approved by the leadership team. So whoever is overseeing those particular employees and the value. So the question is the value, right? And what does that bring back to West-MEC? So we go and we learn about other systems. You know, we hear reports from our superintendent where he and maybe a couple of other of our leadership team have gone, and we bring those ideas back. So there's value to that. Is there a budget per se? No. Do we budget for conferences that we know are upcoming? Yes, we do. And we do that in the May timeframe. Can I give you an exact number at the moment? No, I cannot, but I would be able to give you that information. Let me do a little bit of research and I can provide that to the board of what we've set our annual budget for conferences. A lot of the conferences too, I know that we present at those national conferences. So we're not only just locally recognized as one of the innovators in the industry, but nationally. And so that in itself gives West-MEC the national notoriety that you see in some of these publications that we talked about this evening. So, but I will get you the board of numbers so that you can kind of get your head wrapped around, because I know you see it piecing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just curious how that, if there's like one budget or if there's a general fund, and depending on who's going or what the purpose of the conference is, if it comes from different buckets.
It does.
Okay.
So could I add?
Yeah.
Are you done or can I?
Yeah.
Okay. So just, can I piggyback on that? So we go to annual conferences. I noticed like the one coming up in Oregon, Northwest Campus is sending 3 people, Northwest Campus is sending 3 people and Southeast Campus Northeast Campus is sending 1. Why do we need 3 to go? And so if it's something we've gone annually, what is the business benefit that West-MEC received in the last year? What did they do that they brought back as best practice? Because it says best practices. Why do we need 3 to go? And what is the benefit?
4 total.
For 3 people, 4 total people to go.
Without knowing what the agenda is for that particular conference, I wouldn't be able to answer that question for you, but I know that leadership does take the information back and we may share it back we just have a campus administrator meeting this morning. Come back, share that with other administrators. Hey, best practices, or I learned this. So I know we share amongst each other. I can speak to the terms of there is a business officials conference down in Tucson. And when I allow staff to go to that, they are required to come back with presentations back to the rest of the staff. So we're teaching each other. So it's not only just those 3 people that learned, but it is everybody in the leadership organization that learns and benefits from that. And to answer your question, why 3, why not 1? There are these conferences, there are several breakout sessions. You know, so you can't always learn everything by just being one person, because you can't be at all the breakout sessions. So that's another thing that when I have staff that goes to these conferences, we sit down and we identify, you're going to this, you're going to go to that, and I'm going to go to this, so that we all can get as much exposure to the opportunities that are offered by the conference as we can. So I would share with you that that is probably why we would need multiple people to go to one conference. We get the most out of it.
So I see Ms. Medina in the back. So could we ask you, you're traveling to Oregon with 2 other people from your campus.
Correct.
Conference,
Hopefully, yes.
Conference you've gone to before. So tell us something that you implemented this year from last year's conference, something that benefited West-MEC.
With the best practices conference, which is really geared towards administrators, which is our positions, allows us to, one of the things that we like to do is be able to see other programs that are running in different states and how they're being implemented. So that was one of our big things that we like to look at, is some of the different programs that we can come back and implement, as well as practices and programs. Like Marcy has said, there are a lot of different types of breakouts, and we're able to go and then come back and collaborate as a team as to, this was good information, we're looking to bring it forth into some of our programs. So I think that's some of the best practices. Last year, I did go to the best practices, it was in Salt Lake City, is looking at some of the hiring practices and how they had the challenges of retaining and getting some of the teachers into their system. And sometimes when we're hiring them really late up to that point of it's a crash course and a fire hose, some of the things that they had implemented as to relieve some of the stress on those instructors, we pulled this past year and are trying that with some of our teachers that are coming
So
in.
what are some of the ones you're trying out this year, just as an example for the board?
A little bit more of a mentor type of aspect, especially those that are individualized. Since we have singleton programs, for example, our biomedical, we've had to replace. That is the only program that does not have a somebody to collaborate with, is finding a mentor. Some of the mentor programs that they are using to bring them in and allow them to take some of that stress off because of all the things that they have to do as an individual teacher rather as a group. So we're looking at some of those mentor type of positions that we are using with our teachers coming in, providing to them. But I also ask to take it as a team, because the fact is, as administrators, and especially on a campus, we don't get a lot of the opportunities to go out. And we want to be able to bring some of those and have the team building and talk with our group at that time and build some of those programs and see other programs.
Are there ever any opportunities where our leadership and or teachers have an opportunity to present at these conferences?
Yes.
And share that best practices for them?
Yes.
Yes, so that's another.
We met often at these best practices. We have people, myself and some others attending that are presenting at that conference and at most of the national conferences that we attend. There's multiple sessions that are guided by West-MEC.
Yeah, and I like to just point out, everyone on the board's been to these meetings, these different events, and we know that there's a lot of breakouts. We know that we present. But Dr. Spurgeon approves these, correct?
Just cabinet members.
Okay.
Below that's by their supervisor.
Right, so in all those considerations of importance and stuff like that's already pretty much baked into the cake, right?
And so when we present, so in my experience, when I would present in the private world, if I presented and I'm selected to present, they waive my registration fee. Then what's the benefit of presenting?
NASWA, they don't pay for it.
So what's the benefit of presenting if they're not gonna waive your fee
It's
or
best
something?
practices, so when you travel to different places, you're learning things you don't, like for instance, we spoke about vocational villages.
I get going there, but what's my benefit of presenting if they're not waiving my registration fee? I now have to put a presentation together, I have to pay the $1,000 to go. And I'm now up against, when I've presented, it's like, the one time this session is offered, it's up against me, I now can't go because I have to present.
Well, you gotta think about the West-MEC model, so CTE is still very cutting edge. And what the country's doing in context of Arizona, maybe something just a tad different, maybe something better, maybe something that we can teach them to bring them here to learn more about our programs. So representing a school this size of this caliber nationally is a great benefit to not just the country's CT programs, but our CT programs as well.
But I shouldn't pay to benefit the rest of the country.
That's an
I mean, so that's where I'm trying to get to. It's like, what's the benefit of presenting
Oh,
if it's
Frank.
a draw?
You're paying for the opportunity to market yourself and.
I think maybe, you know, there's a lot of questions. I think the way these are presented, these travel requests, they really do. If you could maybe in the future, they went last year. This is a benefit that we implemented last year for the board to see more, because what we see on the requests is very vague. And it'd be better to know what the business value is and how things were implemented, I think. Is what I think I heard.
That's micromanagement in terms of undermine our management team here. I think that if they pull out something important or interesting that we can get on board with, or something that they can teach us, I think that's you're valid.
That's really all I'm asking is tell us about what you come back with that's of interest.
Yeah.
Share it with the board. I don't think that's, you know, if you keep hearing, hey, I attended this conference. I attended this conference. Frank's attended 5 conferences.
Look, let me ask this. When somebody travels, when you go to Oregon and you come back and you were saying that the people that you send have to come back and present to the rest of the group. Do you put together an after action report from the trip that says, here's what we covered, blah, blah, blah?
Report-wise, no. Do we come back and collaborate with our fellow administrators and those types of things, are the things that we have seen and or that we do? Yes, we do share that.
And I for one would hate to impose another requirement for you to write a report. But as long as it's being shared, as long as you can articulate it, I think we're good. I mean,
But I can also say from having attended one of these events, I know that our administrators, as they're going to all these, they're sharing right there at the conference. I've seen it happen in action.
And I could tell you some of the benefits with some of these, with TSMC landed, we started doing these partnerships with advanced manufacturing industries, even the medical industries. Learning what everyone else is doing, where they're already planted as a school system was valuable. Did we take it all? Probably not, but I'm sure we took bits and pieces that gave us an aha moment to build those collaboration opportunities to build up programs and partnerships. So I totally endorse those activities. I'll make a motion.
Could you kind of make a motion if you're gonna approve something?
What will you approve?
Thank you.
Second, travel budget. Overnight out-of-state travel.
Yeah.
The motion that is recommended is to approve overnight out-of-state travel requests.
I motion to approve the overnight travel license.
Second.
Else.
Are we ready for the question? I got.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is that, yes, I'm ready for the question, or yes, that's your verbal answer?
Both.
Way to go, Jim.
I vote yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
All right, number 8, sole source. Who asked for that?
One of the things, you know, our policy asks that we get quotes from 3 vendors. And since this is the only company that does this type of work, and we're all saying that it's all customer service based, it's not anything technical. Like say if we use these in our different programs and stuff like that for nursing or medical, physical therapy, you know, if we looked, you know, into critical thinking skills, how far off are we from with that company? How far off are they from developing something like that instead of customer service?
Well, what's interesting is it's one of the examples that Peter wasn't able to show you because we were focusing on the customer service side of it, is they've worked with a number of restaurants And they actually have the technical side of working, let's say for an example, they have a process worked out. If you're back in the kitchen, you're making a new dish, they have a process worked out where it shows you step by step by step. If you work at McDonald's, they have a process, a technical process worked out like you're speaking about, like whether it was automotive technology or nursing, they have a process like that worked out with other industries. They just haven't worked out that process for career and technical education yet, because this will be the first attempt for them to be in this industry. But they're willing to work with us on a regular basis. They want to be with us. They know West-MEC is going to be the flagship CTE industry, and they want to be with us. They just signed.
Should get a discount then.
Do we get licensing rights on this, or do we have sole?
Yes, we do. And in fact, I just got word today, if you were asking earlier about the licenses, it would be unlimited for the year that we have that. So we got that given. And then they waived the maintenance fee for the first year as well. So they're willing to give us discounts, and for further development, we'll be looking at those technical skills. And I think I mentioned to a couple of you, they just signed Dr. Oz to develop that technical aspect side of his new healthcare curriculum and program nationwide. And so it's just sitting in the wings waiting for us to tell us what you want it to look like, because they're gonna have to look at our scope and sequence, our curriculum, the national standards, NC3, all the things that we do, because it's not just going in and say, okay, in nursing, we have a pretty good idea about what you want. They was actually sit down with the classroom teachers, look at our curriculum and say, okay, what technical skill aspect do you want us to build in? Because they could build in, for an example, he talked about having that facial recognition software to know how you say something or approach something. So if you're a nursing student, you want to get that aspect of an actual patient, they would have to build in that rubric to say, what disease or what issues would you want that avatar to have? So it won't be just as easy as saying, we know what we're supposed to do. They have to get the information from us before they can actually build it, but they're willing to do that.
So, just doing like critical thinking skills. I'm just thinking, we're investing so much money, and this is only customer service skills. It is a lot of money, $500,000 to teach customer service skills.
Well, I think the $500,000, it's the base infrastructure. I mean, part of it is when you start technology, like when you buy a computer, if you just want to use it to surf the internet, but you learn to do other things later, it's still, you need to spend $2,000 just to surf the internet. And then as you build more use into your technology, it's kind of a lame example, but I think Dr. Spurgeon, am I kind of close to the?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a starting point.
You spend, let's say $1,500 on a computer, but you got to buy a software program for $59. We got to buy the computer first, and for us to be able to do that. And I think from there, according to the president and the leadership that I talked to, they are going to be very, very willing to help West-MEC move forward in a very conscientious way. And there's also going to be additional grants. So remember, keep in mind, it's a $495,000 price tag, but I raised almost $400,000 of that. That's not West-MEC money.
I know that's grant money. It's still taxpayer money.
From somewhere.
Right, it's from somewhere, but taxpayers are
Not be
paying.
from Arizona, but it's from somewhere, some taxpayers,
I just would like to see something that was more critical thinking instead of something like.
And you can help us. I mean, if you have ideas, we're only limited to what we can or can't think.
I'm looking at like, the animage tables that we have at the Northwest campus.
Absolutely.
For medical, where you could have testing, but it's still, this can go a little bit beyond that. And teach them critical thinking skills of what do I get to do the next thing or whatever that they're learning. I think that would be a lot more advantageous for our students, for our teachers, than customer service skills. You're talking $500,000 for each program, and then after the first year is $5,000 a month per program for 125 students. That is buku bucks.
I think it's fairly inexpensive, but the other thing, Barbara, if you remember when they came into the administration, he went deeper with that group that he did with the board. And we left there, our imaginations were just blown completely away by the possibilities of us. And keep in mind, and what the board doesn't know is Ms. Boosum asked if we could replace cosmetology with medical assisting, which that changes the game, which we may be able to build what you're asking through the medical assisting versus cosmetology, because the programmatic requirements would be a little different than that.
Well, and the thing is though, is that when I asked, what I was thinking of something more critical thinking skills instead of customer service. When I asked you know, before you said it would be customer service in the medical field. I want something more than just customer service.
So if you think about that though, and I don't want to belabor this issue because I know we've kind of beat this thing to death, but if you think about the critical skills, and I'm just thinking out loud here, if they build into the rubric, let's say for an example, if a patient has specific symptoms, we're talking about critical thinking skills to be able to assess using their background and skill set and knowledge. To me, that would be probably the most appropriate critical thinking skills to be able to say, I can identify through my training and my skill set the symptoms and then prescribe and or to complete the evaluation of where that student needs to go next, whatever that prescription might be.
And that's what I'm saying. Something
Yes.
like that is worth the money to me,
Yes.
but not for customer service
Yes,
skills.
yes, we can do that. I think in medical assisting, it lends itself well. I think it could be a part of what we're getting ready to work on.
Would it be part of the 500,000 or are we paying extra for each additional program module?
I think now that we're moving to medical assisting, I think we can modify what we're gonna be doing in that area and add exactly what you're asking for.
How
Because
much
that
would
would be
it cost?
typical.
So is it $500,000 for each program that we implement?
No, that's just the initial startup cost. Like Frank said, you gotta buy the computer first. You gotta build the platform first, then what the add-ons would be something like buying Intuit software, TurboTax, Microsoft Office. But according to the company that I'm talking to, they're gonna give us a substantial decrease in the additional programs that we run.
They're benefiting from us.
Yeah, as West-MEC goes, they all go. We all go.
We're probably getting a good deal.
Yeah, we're getting a fantastic deal.
Start out.
But on moving, I think we're probably getting the best deal that anybody's ever gonna get on this, I would imagine, but I think we're gonna go in the direction, and I'm gonna push this company in the direction that you're talking about. Because when we had our conversation around medical assistant, we talked about this, and we actually went upstairs, we were in that upstairs room by the physical therapy. We talked about the very thing that you just mentioned right there as a part of the medical assisting and nursing program. So I think that's a direction I think we can go in this contract.
So can give us kind of an idea of how much it would cost to be adding different programs?
I don't think it's gonna cost us anything to add what you're asking for medical assisting. I think we can write that right now.
So would you be able to do both the sales and the medical assistant?
I think for medical assisting, I think it could be a combination of both of those skill sets designed within the single platform.
So the sales one complements the petition school, correct?
Yes, if you think about it, so you remember the demonstration you gave, and then we were looking for customer service around how you dealt with an irate customer.
Right.
Well, you have irate patients as well, so you could actually build both sets of skills
Oh, I see.
using the same platform with a diagnosis and or also addressing an irate and or a very unhappy
In
client.
different situations, same.
But you can build it in with the same rubric built in, what symptoms are you looking for based on the analysis that you're doing? So to me, I think it's two different skill sets. But I think you can also build it within the same platform to be able to do both sides.
What we're buying essentially are the building blocks of AI upon which they're gonna hang all of these modules onto that get us to what you're talking about.
Yes.
But you gotta have the building blocks before you can get there.
And I understand, but then there's an issue after the first year, it's $5,000 a month for each program.
As of right now, and I'm hopefully gonna be able to get that down to find more grant money to make sure it's not a West-MEC fund issue.
You can always renegotiate
Yeah,
when the
we
contract
can
ends up.
renegotiate.
The software comes down in value. It's just
Our first year.
It just
Yeah.
is.
I'm also concerned that because this is the only company we know, that if this really takes root, other companies they're gonna jump on it. They see it's making money for them, and that price will drop like a rock.
And this is only a 1-year commitment, right? We can renew every year.
This is for a year. This is
Oh,
$500,000.
$500,000.
Yeah, I know, but it's a 1-year commitment, so we can end it that's if we approve it. But it's a 1-year commitment. With the $500,000, we're getting the licenses, unlimited licenses, maintenance, training. And my understanding from what I read in the materials, just one program module, the cosmetology.
No, it's cosmetology and now it's gonna be medical assisting. It would have been aesthetics and cosmetology.
We have 2 program modules. Now, if we want to implement in the future additional program modules, find it hard to believe that they're just gonna do that for free for like construction, welding, one.
Medical assisting piece. If we did additional modules, it would probably be an additional cost of that, but at a far reduced
Yes,
rate.
there would be an additional cost. We don't know the cost though at the time. Okay.
That's something that I would bring to the board for additional cost anyway, so.
Yes. Okay, and then with the use of this program, our students are not writing AI scripts or anything, or working toward an AI certification or license or anything like that. It's just, so basically it's a teaching tool, a complementary teaching tool.
Yeah, the other thing to keep in mind is that, you know, we tell business and industry, West-MEC does a tremendous job in teaching those professional skills in communication, leadership, having to work every day, being on time, being a good employee. Now we're gonna be able to measure the customer service skills and to give them feedback and a rubric. So when our students leave West-MEC with this program, they'll actually have a rubric to show that they've actually met those requirements for those professional skill sets. So it's not just me telling you anymore. It's now we actually have an evaluative rubric to be able to say our students have mastered at this level our professional services rubric.
That'll probably free up. Imagine using that would also free up the teacher's time, because now you have multiple licenses. Each student can have a license and be doing the training individually with this avatar. And the teacher can just focus on the students that need the additional help.
Yes, you remember, and Barbara, I don't think Ms. Farmer, she didn't get to talk while she was here, but she does all of her professional rubric work, specifically one-on-one with students. So think about how much time that takes, one-on-one versus 24. So she's gonna gain back tremendous amount of instructional time and potentially even take our students deeper and further into the curriculum, and or additional certifications could be possible with the additional time. So I just know at West-MEC, you know, we're at the top of the game right now. This is something in the AI space that I think we should take a look at and at least take a chance and jump off. And I think it's gonna put us in a great spot.
And
I think
that's
it's
the
very
last thing I
exciting.
would have thought I would be excited about, because I wanted nothing to do with AI. But now it's like, okay, we're on the cutting edge. We have the opportunity to participate. You've got a lot of eyes on this, so it's not gonna go haywire.
No.
And it reminds me of stem cell, when they first started stem cell, and everybody was really paranoid about the whole thing. And yeah, it can be used for bad, but it can also be used for good.
Well, I believe
My
it can
thoughts are
be
the
used
same.
for good, but I still want more meat on those, on.
So just to kind of facilitate the conversation, could we maybe get a motion to see what direction the board is going, and then we could maybe get a motion a second and finish up conversation?
Quick question before that, just how much of that grant money is already committed to paying for this?
That's what it's for. I mean, we submitted the grant specifically for the AI tool.
So right now we're on the hook for
$350,000 of that, plus I raised between 25 and 50 more through some partners through the foundation.
so then the cost to the district would be 100,000,
About 95,
90,000.
thereabouts.
And then if we decide to continue with it, next year it'll be 60,000, 5,000 per, unless we get grant money.
Yeah, so and believe me, I just sent some grant information to our staff today, that there's just loads and loads and loads of AI technology money that's out there. And believe me, whenever I want something, I always try to find a way to pay for it. Sometimes you gotta give up something to get something else, but you can't just keep adding things on it and know that there's not new money coming in. So if we're gonna continue this program, I'm gonna have to find new money, because I don't wanna commit West-MEC money, because I think that could be better used with salaries and staff and things like that. There's plenty of millions of dollars out there to be able to fund this program for. This is one of those things, I'm most excited about this more than probably anything I've had in the last 10, 15 years.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Okay. Moved by, or motion by Ms. Wiley and seconded by Mr. Molina, Mr. Garcia. I don't know who was first. You guys were. All right. Any more discussion? Hearing none. Mr. Miglerino, what's your verbal response? Approval of sole source vendor?
Yes.
Thank you.
We're on the same wavelength.
Well, yeah.
We just gotta figure out how to get there. We're on the same wavelength.
I understand, I wanna see it first.
You can be a part of it. You can help. You're more welcome to love you, because we're on the same wavelength. Because eventually I know that's where I wanna go. When we went through the automotive program, I could just see our students walking in saying computer. Because our automotive technology teacher, automotive tech teacher said, you know, we spend more of our time researching the problem and finding the part to fix the problem than we do actually fixing the problem. So I go back to Star Trek, if you could walk up 3i Technology and you had a list of the cars you're working on, you could just ask the question, tell me what the issue is, do the analysis, tell me what part it is, order it for me, or send it to the actual shop. You could save countless hours and time is money.
Yeah.
So
I
that's where we're going.
totally, I
We're asking
totally
for-
get it. I really do.
We could talk about it all night. It's a great conversation. The motion passes 5-2. Can we move on to
I missed the vote.
Budget approval.
adoption of the budget? In the last 2 hours, has anyone come up with any new questions? Rodriguez?
No, thanks.
Then I would entertain a motion.
Second.
I guess I made the motion and Mr.
Make the motion to adopt the budget as presented.
And I'll second it, I guess.
I just wanted to move it along.
That's whatever it takes. All right, Ms. Brown? Hearing no conversation, I'll call for the question. Mr. Miglerino, yes or no on the budget?
Yes.
Thank you. It passes unanimously. Moving on to item number 2, in-service training for the board. This is just kind of a continuation of what we did last year. Essentially, we've allocated, kind of going back to the corporate travel, $35,000 for the board, $5,000 for board member training and development. Here's a list of conferences, but that's not your only limit. It's just suggestion. If you find something else of interest, simply go through the travel request, why you want to go. You've seen the form we approve of everybody else every month. And so that's really it. It's a continuation of last year's same 5,000. I think the board spent, some people didn't spend any of it. I think I spent half of it because I had to pay to present with you, which is a racket. I still say that.
Nobody spent their 5,000,
Okay,
Yeah.
their
So-
entire 5,000.
so we spent less than 30,000, it sounds like. Very
I
good.
just wanted to just pass out, I know that at the last meeting when you guys talked about the action, about additional training from the Arizona Coalition.
Yep.
Those trainings aren't listed because they don't have a list, it's only for members. So this just explains the membership, and if you would like to be a member, just let me know and I will submit your membership. And then you will receive emails from the coalition on trainings that are available for board members. So I just wanted to throw that out there. That's why it's not on the list, because I don't have access to that, but I just wanted to make sure you had the information.
And policy services opportunities.
Yeah, and also upcoming in the content area, the trust, our new policy services, they're having a policy governance summit on August. It says 9th, but it's not, it's August 29th. Sorry, it's a typo. It's at the end of August. So if you would like to go, let me know. It is free for members. Our district is that we're members of the Arizona School Risk Retention, so
And it's the end of August.
August 29th. So sorry,
It's an invisible 2.
yeah.
Pardon me?
It's an invisible 2.
Ms. Newsom, what is the name of the policy services that you're involved with? I can't remember.
Oh, my goodness, it's this that I just passed out.
Because I was asking Ms. Brown if there was opportunities for us, if there any reason to bring that kind of training to our administrators. So just think about, are there opportunities for us? Because we're always looking for legal updates and ways which we can provide more safety for kids or whatever. But if you can think about something that they offer for us, we'd be happy.
Okay, is that the same information that I gave you? That they have policy? Yes. Yes, it is.
Just so I can't remember the name, maybe $1 million. I can't, I just lost it. I lost it.
I want to make a motion to approve the travel conference registration and reimbursable travel fee and everything else as stated in the agenda. That's a long paragraph.
It is.
Believe Ms. Miller, did you second that?
And Mr. Molina seconded it. Hearing any more conversation? Mr. Miglerino?
No. None.
Yes, we heard, correct. You have voted no.
You voted
Thank
no?
you.
You voted no?
You voted no last year too.
Put me down for a yes. Yes, let's go with yes.
Put me down for, can I sell you 4
Aye.
boxes of Girl Scout cookies?
Okay, I have you down as a yes.
If you continue this till 8 o'clock, yes.
Question. Future agenda items. We're almost there.
And motion passes.
All right, moving on to future agenda items, Dr. Spurgeon.
So Ms. Brown and I and the cabinet, we're working on that annual obligations list. You know, because education is pretty cyclical about reports that we give kind of at the same time each month. If there are reports that you would like to see on a yearly basis, if you could let us know. Things you'd like to see, so we can get that on the list, so it's just, you don't have to think about it anymore, just every September is this, or every November is that, every December is this. We've also talked about Ms. Booston to make sure at the end of the month to get your ADM reports, so it's things like that that we can get on a continuation list. Because the more you can get solidified and in process and procedure, it's not something you have to think about, it's every year, we know it's coming, so we can be better plan and prepare for those items that you would like to request. So anything that you need, just let us know so we know at that time.
I think the only one I can think of right now is, I think we missed it this last year, but in November, we would usually recognize the veterans.
We know we did it in
Okay,
November,
we did.
yes.
Just, yeah, that's
Recognize.
Recognize
our veterans each November, our staff.
And we did that.
Yes, we did.
Okay, I just didn't. It's so odd, some things are like automatic, you don't notice it anymore.
Mhm.
All right, anything else from the board? All right, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Answer.
Amen. Is there a second? Second. All right, Mr. Molina, we will stand adjourned till next month. Thank you, everybody.
He's already signed up.
I wore my. Oh, yeah, because I got one in January that they had released a lien against my property because.